Commander Vexthar stood at the observation deck of Omega Prime Station, his dark scales reflecting the distant stars. The massive space station orbited a small planet on the edge of Coalition space. For 300 years, his people had protected this sector. The Saurians were the greatest warriors in the galaxy. Everyone knew this. Everyone respected this. Today, something unusual was happening. A new species was coming to join the Galactic Coalition. Vexthar had read the reports about them. They called themselves humans. They came from a planet named Earth. The reports said Earth was a dangerous world. High gravity, extreme weather, deadly animals, too much oxygen. Yet somehow these humans had survived there. Vexthar did not think much of it. Many species came from difficult worlds. It did not make them strong. It did not make them warriors. He watched through the viewport as a small ship approached the station. The vessel was primitive compared to Coalition technology. It looked like something built in a hurry. The humans had only discovered faster-than-light travel a few months ago. The ship docked. Vexthar made his way to the receiving area. Other species were already gathered there. The insectoid crics, the gaseous nephilim, the aquatic delphins, representatives from dozens of worlds, all curious about the newcomers, all wondering if humans would be useful to the Coalition. The airlock opened. 5 humans stepped out. They wore simple uniforms, blue and white. Nothing fancy, nothing impressive. Vexthar studied them with his yellow eyes. They were small, maybe 6 feet tall at most. No natural armor, no claws, no fangs. Soft skin that looked easy to tear. Weak creatures, he thought. The leader stepped forward. He was older than the others. Gray hair at his temples, lines on his face. He carried himself with confidence, though. That surprised Vexthar. The human smiled and extended his hand. Captain Jake Morrison of Earth, the human said. It's an honor to be here. Vexthar looked at the offered hand. A strange greeting. He had studied human customs. This was how they showed peace. He reached out with his clawed hand and gripped Jake's palm. The human did not flinch. Interesting? Commander Vexthar, he replied. Welcome to Omega Prime. Jake introduced his crew. Amy Chen was the tactical officer. She was younger, maybe 30 years old. Smart eyes. She carried a data pad and seemed to be recording everything. Kyle Brooks was security chief, big and muscular for a human. He had scars on his face and arms. A fighter, perhaps, but still just human. Then there was Lisa Grant, their medical officer. She looked at the aliens with pure wonder. No fear, just curiosity. The last was a pilot named Danny Cruz, young and nervous. He kept looking around like he expected trouble. The welcome ceremony began. The Coalition's head diplomat gave a long speech. She talked about unity and cooperation, about peace among the stars. The humans listened politely. Jake translated quietly for his crew. Vexthar noticed that Amy was taking detailed notes. Smart, at least. After the ceremony, there was a gathering. Different species mingled. They wanted to meet the humans, learn about Earth. Vexthar watched from a distance. He saw how other species reacted to the humans. Some were curious, some were dismissive. The Crix warrior laughed at Jake's small size. The Nephilim wondered how such fragile creatures had survived space travel. Vexthar approached the human captain. Jake was talking with Lisa about the station's architecture. They stopped when they saw the Saurian commander. Captain Morrison, Vexthar said. I have read about your world. Earth sounds like a difficult place. It can be, Jake agreed, but it's home. We love it. Your species is very new to space travel, Vexthar continued. The Coalition has many dangers. Space is not kind to the weak. Jake's smile did not change, but something flickered in his eyes. We appreciate your concern, Commander, but humans are pretty good at surviving. Survival and strength are different things, Vexthar said. He did not mean to be cruel, just honest. The galaxy has many predators. You have no natural weapons, no armor. How will you defend yourselves? Kyle stepped forward. The security chief crossed his arms. We've been defending ourselves for thousands of years, Commander. We'll manage. Vexthar looked at the scarred human. Bold words from such a small creature. I hope you are right, he said. For your sake. The conversation ended there. Vexthar walked away. He felt certain about the humans now. They were brave, yes. But bravery without strength was just foolishness. They would learn. The galaxy would teach them. Or it would kill them. 3 weeks passed. The humans settled into life on Omega Prime. They learned coalition protocols. They studied alien languages. Amy impressed everyone with how quickly she understood new technology. Lisa made friends with dozens of species. She asked endless questions about their biology. Kyle trained with coalition security forces. He was slower than most species, but he never gave up. Vexthar watched them. He had to admit they were dedicated. But dedication meant nothing in battle. He had seen countless species join the coalition. Most were peaceful. They contributed in other ways: science, art, trade. The humans would probably be the same. Then everything changed. The alarm rang throughout the station. Vexthar was in his quarters when it happened. He rushed to the command center. The screen showed a terrible sight. Ships were approaching. Lots of ships, more than 50 vessels, all bearing the markings of the Krellian raiders. The Krellians were pirates, insect-like creatures with hard shells and no mercy. They attacked stations and colonies. They took everything: resources, technology, prisoners to sell as slaves. Nobody had ever survived a Krellian raid. The insects never left anyone alive to tell the story. "How many ships do we have?" Vexthar demanded. 15 warships, his lieutenant replied. Another dozen civilian vessels. The rest of the fleet is days away. 15 against 50. Bad odds, very bad odds. Vexthar made the only logical decision. Begin evacuation procedures. All civilian ships leave immediately. Warships will cover their escape. The order went out across the station. Species rushed to their ships. Panic filled the corridors. Everyone knew what the Krellians did to prisoners. Death was better. Vexthar organized his warriors. They would hold the station as long as possible. By time for the evacuation. It was a suicide mission, but it was necessary. Jake's voice came through the communicator. "Commander, this is Captain Morrison. We're receiving the evacuation order." "Correct, Captain. Get your people to your ship. Leave immediately." There was a pause. Then Jake spoke again. "We're not leaving, Commander." Vexthar thought he had heard wrong. "Say again." "We're staying to help defend the station," Jake said. His voice was calm, too calm. "Where do you want us?" "Absolutely not," Vexthar said. "Captain, your species just joined the coalition. You have no combat experience against the Krellians. You will die here." "Maybe," Jake admitted. "But if we run, more ships will have to stay behind to cover the evacuation. That means more people die. If we stay, we can help. Every gun counts, Commander." Vexthar wanted to refuse. The humans would be useless in battle. They would probably get themselves killed in the first 5 minutes. But Jake was right about one thing. Every defender mattered. If the humans could hold even one corridor, it would help. "Fine," Vexthar said. "Sector 7, rear defensive position. Hold that corridor. Do not try to be heroes. Just hold the line long enough for the evacuation." "Understood, Commander. We'll hold." The connection ended. Vexthar shook his head. Brave fools. He assigned them to Sector 7 because it was the least likely to see action. Maybe they would survive. Probably not. He felt guilty for accepting their help. This would probably be the end of humanity's adventure in space. Their first battle would be their last. The Krellian fleet arrived. Their ships were ugly things, covered in bone-like armor, bristling with weapons. They did not bother with warnings or demands. They just opened fire. The station's shields lit up under the assault. Explosions rocked the structure. Alarms screamed. Vexthar commanded from the central hub. He watched the tactical displays. His warships engaged the enemy. They fought well. Destroyed 3 Krellian vessels, but 5 more took their place. The insects had numbers on their side. The station's shields failed in multiple sections. Krellian boarding pods attached to the hull like parasites. Then the real battle began. Thousands of insect warriors poured into the station. Each one was 7 feet tall, armored naturally, armed with plasma weapons and razor-sharp claws. They screeched as they attacked. Vexthar's warriors met them head-on. The Saurians fought with skill and fury. They had trained for this. Every corridor became a battlefield. The sound of weapons fire echoed through the station. The smell of burned metal and blood filled the air. The Saurians were winning their fights. Barely, but the Krellians kept coming. For every enemy they killed, 2 more appeared. It was overwhelming. Vexthar knew they could not hold much longer. The evacuation needed more time. Just a little more time. Then he heard something on the communications channel. A human voice, calm, professional, almost bored contact. "Sector 7, Holding position. It was Jake. The Krellians had reached the human position. Vexthar pulled up the security feed for Sector 7. What he saw there would change everything he thought he knew about strength. Vexthar stared at the security screen. He could not believe what he was seeing. The corridor in Sector 7 had been transformed. The humans had built barriers from storage containers and metal panels. They had created a kill zone. Every angle was covered. Every approach was a death trap, but the defenses were not what shocked him. It was how the humans fought. The Krellians rushed down the corridor, 50 of them at least, screeching, firing weapons. Their natural armor should have protected them. Their numbers should have overwhelmed any defense. But the humans did not panic. They did not run. Kyle stood behind the main barrier. He fired his rifle in short, controlled bursts. Each shot hit a target. Each target fell. He did not waste ammunition. He did not spray and pray like most species did in combat. Every bullet had a purpose. Amy moved along the side. She carried a smaller weapon. Her movements were calculated, precise. She flanked the Krellians while they focused on Kyle. Her shots hit weak points in their armor, joints, eyes, soft spots under the shells. She knew exactly where to aim. Jake commanded from the center. His voice never rose, never showed fear. He called out targets, directed fire, adjusted tactics in real time. Danny moved equipment and ammunition. Lisa stood ready with medical supplies. They worked together like a single organism. The first wave of Krellians died in less than 2 minutes. The second wave came, then the third. The humans kept firing, kept moving, kept fighting. Vexthar watched for 20 minutes, then 30, then an hour. The humans never stopped, never slowed down. They just held the line. Impossible, Vexthar whispered. This is impossible. His lieutenant stood beside him. The younger Saurian was also watching the screen. Commander, how are they doing this? They are so small, so weak. Yet they fight like apex predators. Vexthar had no answer. He had studied human biology. They had no natural weapons. Their muscles were weaker than most species. Their bones broke easily. Everything about them suggested they should be prey animals. But prey animals did not fight like this. A Krellian plasma bolt hit Kyle's barrier. The explosion knocked him back. He fell hard. Lisa immediately moved to him. She dragged him behind cover while Amy provided covering fire. Kyle was wounded. Blood ran down his arm. But he was conscious. Angry even. Just a scratch, Kyle said through gritted teeth. Lisa worked on his arm quickly. She injected something. Applied bandages. The whole process took maybe 30 seconds. Then Kyle picked up his rifle again. He returned to his position and kept firing. Vexthar's eyes widened. The human had been injured, bleeding, in pain. But he kept fighting. Most species would retreat when wounded, seek medical care, wait for healing. Not this human. He just kept going. The pattern repeated across the battle. Danny took a hit to his leg. He limped but continued moving supplies. Amy's weapon overheated. She switched to a backup without missing a beat. Jake's armor cracked from a near miss. He ignored it completely. They adapted constantly. When the Krellians tried to flank them, the humans repositioned. When the insects used heavier weapons, the humans changed their tactics. They learned from each wave. Got better. More efficient. It was like watching a machine learn and improve. 2 hours into the battle, Vexthar's other positions were struggling. The Krellians were pushing hard. Several Saurian warriors had fallen. They were running out of ammunition, running out of time. The evacuation was nearly complete, but they needed just a bit longer. Then he looked at Sector 7 again. The humans were still fighting, still holding. They had been in continuous combat for 2 hours. No breaks, no rest, just constant fighting. How were they not exhausted? Vexthar opened a communication channel. Captain Morrison, status report. Jake's response came immediately. His breathing was heavy but controlled. We're holding, Commander. Ammunition at 40%, no serious casualties. We can keep this up. For how long? Vexthar asked. As long as you need, sir. The certainty in Jake's voice struck Vexthar. This was not bravado, not false courage. The human captain truly believed they could hold indefinitely, and based on what Vexthar was seeing, he might be right. Something clicked in Vexthar's mind. He had been thinking about this wrong. He had been fighting defensively, trying to minimize losses. buying time. But the humans were not thinking that way. They were thinking about winning. Captain Morrison, Vexthar said slowly, what if we did not just hold? What if we attacked? There was a pause. Then Jake laughed. Actually laughed in the middle of a battle. Now you're talking, Commander. What did you have in mind? Vexthar looked at the tactical map. An idea formed, a crazy idea, the kind of idea that would either save them all or kill everyone. The Krellian flagship. It is attached to the station's outer hull. If we could sever that connection, the ship would drift away. It would cripple their command structure. I like it, Jake said. How do we get there? Through the maintenance tunnels. But they will be filled with Krellians. It would take a small team, fast and deadly, a suicide mission. Send me the route, Jake said. We'll handle it. Captain, you misunderstand. This is not your fight. I will send my warriors, Commander. Jake's voice was firm. We've been holding Sector 7 for 2 hours. My team is warmed up and ready. Your warriors are exhausted from heavy fighting. We're the logical choice. Besides, Kyle really wants to blow something up. He gets cranky when he doesn't get to blow things up. In the background, Vexthar heard Kyle's voice. It's true. I do get cranky. Despite everything, Vexthar felt himself smile. These humans were insane. Absolutely insane. But they were also right. His warriors were tired. The humans somehow were not. Very well, Captain. I am sending you the coordinates. Do not die. That is an order. We'll do our best, sir. Vexithar transmitted the data. Then he watched as the humans left their position. They moved through the maintenance tunnels like shadows. Fast, silent, professional. This was not beginner's luck. This was training. Years of training. Perhaps centuries of training. The tunnels were narrow and dark. Perfect ambush territory. The Krellians had guards posted. But the humans dealt with them efficiently. Amy spotted the guards first. She used hand signals to communicate. Kyle and Jake moved forward. Their weapons had suppressors. The shots were almost silent. The guards fell without alerting others. They reached the flagship's docking port. Kyle examined the structure. He pulled out explosive charges from his pack. Small but powerful. He placed them carefully at key stress points. His hands were steady despite the danger. Despite the wounds he carried, charges set, Kyle reported. We've got maybe 60 seconds to get clear once I trigger them. Then let's not waste time, Jake said. They started back through the tunnels. Then alarms blared. The Krellians had discovered them. Dozens of insect warriors poured into the tunnels from both directions. The humans were trapped, surrounded. Vexthar watched helplessly from the command center. There were too many Krellians. Even these incredible humans could not fight their way through. He opened the comm channel. Captain, you need to abort. Get out of there. Negative, Commander, Jake said. Weapons fire echoed in the background. We didn't come this far to quit now. Kyle, trigger the charges. With pleasure, Kyle said. The explosion rocked the entire station. The docking clamps shattered. The Krellian flagship tore away from the station's hull. Atmosphere vented into space. Emergency bulkheads sealed automatically. The massive ship drifted away, crippled and helpless. But what about the humans? Vexthar pulled up their location. The tunnel they were in had been partially destroyed by the blast. Emergency barriers had deployed. They were sealed in, trapped with dozens of Krellians. I am sending warriors to extract you, Vexthar said. Don't bother, Jake replied. His voice was strained now. Breathing hard. We'll cut through them and meet you on the other side. Just keep those evacuation ships moving. Captain, there are too many. You cannot watch us. The comm went silent except for weapons fire. Vexthar could only watch the tactical display. The human signals moved through the tunnel, slowly, fighting every step. Krellian signals vanished one by one. The humans were outnumbered 5-1, but they were winning. 10 minutes later, the humans emerged from the tunnel. All 5 of them, wounded, exhausted, covered in blood, some of it their own, but alive, still fighting, still moving forward. Vexthar felt something strange in his chest, a feeling he had not experienced in decades. Since he was young and witnessed his father's final battle, it was respect. Pure, genuine respect for warriors who had earned it through blood and determination. The loss of their flagship threw the Krellians into chaos. Their attack faltered, became disorganized. Vexthar's warriors pushed back, reclaimed lost sections. The tide was turning, but the battle was not over yet. The Krellians were retreating now, but they were angry, desperate, and desperate enemies were the most dangerous kind. Vexthar knew what would come next. The Krellians would make one final attack. They would try to destroy what they could not have. He looked at the security feed. The humans had returned to Sector 7. They were reloading weapons, checking ammunition, treating wounds, getting ready for the next fight. They did not complain, did not ask for relief. They just prepared. For the first time since the battle began, Vexthar allowed himself to hope. Maybe they would survive this. Maybe these strange, weak-looking... The evacuation was almost complete. Most civilian ships had escaped. Only a few remained, loading the last of the refugees. Vexthar coordinated the final efforts from the command center. His warriors were tired but holding their positions. The humans had bought them precious time. Then the sensors screamed a warning. The remaining Krellian ships were converging. All of them. Every vessel they had left. They were moving toward one target. The station's main reactor. Commander, his lieutenant said. Fear edged his voice. They are going to destroy the reactor. If it goes critical, the entire station will explode, Vexthar finished, taking everything within 100 kilometers with it. Including all the evacuation ships, it was the perfect revenge. The Krellians could not win, so they would destroy everything. The station, the defenders, the fleeing ships. All of it would burn. Vexthar felt cold rage build in his chest. This was why everyone feared the Krellians. Not because they were strong, but because they were cruel. How long until the reactor fails? Vexthar demanded. The engineer checked her instruments. The reactor shielding is failing. At current damage rate, we have 15 minutes. Maybe 20, 15 minutes. Not enough time to evacuate everyone. Not enough time to repair the damage. Vexthar pulled up schematics of the reactor. There had to be a solution.
Some way to prevent the meltdown.
His eyes scanned the technical data. There, emergency coolant systems. They could be activated manually. It would flood the reactor core with liquid nitrogen. Stop the meltdown. But someone would have to go into the reactor room. Override the safeties. Trigger the systems by hand. The radiation levels in there were already lethal. It was a death sentence. Whoever went in would not come out alive. Vexthar made his decision immediately. He was the commander. This was his responsibility. He began removing his command armor. Commander, what are you doing? His lieutenant asked. Someone must go into the reactor. It might as well be me. You will take command. Get everyone off this station. Sir, you cannot... That is an order. Before the lieutenant could respond, Jake's voice came through the comm. Commander, we're seeing the same readings. The reactor is failing. Correct, Captain. I am handling it. Continue assisting with the evacuation. Sir, with respect, you're wounded. You took that hit earlier, remember? Your armor recorded significant injury. You would not make it to the reactor, let alone complete the override. Vexthar looked down at his side. The wound from the Krellian blade. He had forgotten about it in the chaos of battle. His scales were dark with dried blood. Pain flared when he moved. Jake was right. He was in no condition for this. Then I will send my strongest warrior, Vexthar said. Commander, I'm already on my way to the reactor. Vexthar felt his blood run cold. Captain, no. This is not your burden. This is my station, my responsibility. And we're part of the coalition now, Jake replied. That makes it our responsibility too. Besides, Amy has the technical knowledge. She can do this faster than anyone. Captain Morrison, I order you to stand down. Sorry, Commander. Bad connection. Can't hear you. The comm cut off. Vexthar roared in frustration. These stubborn humans. He pulled up the security feeds. Jake and Amy were indeed heading to the reactor. Kyle and Danny were with them, clearing the path. Lisa followed behind with medical equipment. The entire human team was going. I am going after them, Vexthar said. He grabbed a radiation suit. His lieutenant tried to stop him, but Vexthar pushed past. He would not let the humans sacrifice themselves. Not after everything. Not after they showed him what true warriors looked like. Vexthar moved through the corridors as fast as his injured body allowed. He heard weapons fire ahead. The humans were fighting their way through remaining Krellian forces. He arrived just as they cleared the last group of enemies. Commander, Jake said when he saw Vexthar, you should not be here. You need medical attention. And you should not be here at all, Vexthar shot back. Captain, this mission is suicide. You know this. Why are you doing this? Jake met his eyes. Because it's the right thing to do. Those evacuation ships have families on them. Children. People who deserve to live. If we can save them, we will. That's what humans do, even if it costs your lives. Especially then. Vexthar understood now. This was not recklessness. This was conviction. These humans truly believed in protecting others, even strangers, even aliens they had just met. It was built into them, hardwired by evolution on a world where cooperation meant survival. Then I am coming with you, Vexthar said. If you will sacrifice yourselves for us, the least I can do is stand beside you. Jake smiled. Welcome to the team, Commander. They reached the reactor entrance. Amy studied the controls. The override will take 2 people. 1 to input the commands, 1 to manually adjust the physical controls. The systems are too damaged for remote access. I will do the manual controls, Vexthar said. Saurian biology has some radiation resistance. I will last longer than you in there. And I'll handle the computer systems, Jake said. Captain, no, Amy protested. I should be the one. Amy, you're needed out here. If this doesn't work, you'll need to find another solution. You're the smartest person on this station. Everyone is counting on you. Jake put his hand on her shoulder. Besides, I'm the captain. This is my call. Amy's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded. Come back, sir. That's an order. We'll do our best. Jake and Vexthar suited up in the heaviest radiation gear available. It would not be enough. They both knew that, but it might buy them a few extra minutes. Kyle handed Jake a rifle. Just in case, Kyle said. His voice was rough with emotion. Give them hell, Captain. Always do, Jake replied. Lisa checked their suits one final time. She did not speak. Could not speak. She just squeezed Jake's hand. Danny saluted, formal, respectful. The gesture of a young soldier honoring his commander. Jake and Vexthar entered the reactor room. The blast door sealed behind them with a heavy thud, the sound of finality. The heat inside was overwhelming. The radiation alarms immediately started screaming. Warning lights flashed red. The reactor core glowed with deadly energy. Vexthar could feel the radiation penetrating his suit, burning his cells. Killing him slowly. How much time do we have? Jake asked. 5 minutes until meltdown, Vexthar said. Maybe less. Then let's get to work. They moved to their positions. Jake at the control terminal, Vexthar at the manual override station. They worked in perfect coordination. Jake called out commands. Vexthar executed them. Turning valves, pulling levers, adjusting control rods. The work was brutal in the heat and radiation. Vexthar's suit began to fail. Seals breaking down from the radiation. His vision blurred. His muscles screamed. But he kept working. Beside him, Jake was equally determined. The human's hands shook from radiation sickness, but he never stopped typing commands. Commander, Jake said between gasps, I need to know something. Why did you change your mind about us? You thought we were weak. Vexthar pulled a heavy lever. The mechanism resisted. He put all his strength into it. The lever moved. I was wrong, he said. I thought strength meant size, power, natural weapons. But I watched you fight, watched you adapt, watched you refuse to quit even when you should have. That is true strength. We're just stubborn, Jake said with a weak laugh. No, you are survivors. Your entire species evolved by refusing to accept death. Every human carries that legacy, that determination. I have fought for decades, Captain. I thought I knew what warriors were. Then I met you. An alarm changed pitch. Critical systems were failing. They had maybe 2 minutes left, almost there, Jake said. His fingers flew across the keyboard. Just need to bypass the final safety lock. Vexthar, when I say go, you need to pull the emergency coolant release. The big red handle to your left. Ready, Vexthar confirmed. He gripped the handle. His claws dug into the metal. Bypass complete, Jake said. Now. Vexthar pulled with every ounce of strength he had left. The handle resisted, stuck. He roared and pulled harder. His muscles tore. His bones creaked. But the handle moved. Then it broke free. He yanked it down all the way. Liquid nitrogen flooded the reactor core. Steam exploded into the air. The temperature dropped rapidly. The deadly glow faded. The alarms changed from critical to warning, then to normal. The reactor stabilized. They had done it. Against all odds, they had saved the station. Jake collapsed. Vexthar tried to reach him, but fell as well. The radiation had destroyed their bodies. They lay on the reactor room floor, barely conscious. Vexthar could hear voices on the comm, Amy shouting for them to respond, Kyle demanding they open the door. "Captain," Vexthar whispered. "We did it." "Yeah," Jake breathed. "We did?" The blast door exploded inward. Amy and Kyle rushed in, ignoring the radiation warnings. They grabbed Jake and Vexthar. Lisa was right behind them with a medical team. "They dragged both warriors out of the death trap, you idiots," Amy said through tears. "You beautiful, stupid idiots." Lisa worked frantically, injecting medicines, applying treatments, using both human and saurian medical technology. The radiation damage was severe, but there was a chance, a small chance. As consciousness faded, Vexthar heard the evacuation ships reporting. They were clear. Everyone had escaped. The station was saved. They had won. And Vexthar understood something profound in that moment. Strength. Vexthar woke slowly. Pain was the first thing he felt. Every part of his body hurt. His scales felt like they were on fire. His bones ached deep inside. He tried to move but could not. Something held him down. "Commander, please stay still." Lisa's voice came from somewhere nearby. "Your body is healing, but you need to rest." Vexthar opened his eyes. A white ceiling. Medical equipment all around. He was in a hospital bed. Lisa stood beside him, checking monitors. She looked tired. Dark circles under her eyes, but she smiled when she saw him awake. "How long?" Vexthar's voice was rough, barely a whisper. 4 days, Lisa said. "You and Jake have been unconscious since the reactor. We weren't sure if either of you would make it." "Jake, is he alive, in the next bed?" Lisa gestured, "Stubborn just like you, refusing to die." Vexthar turned his head slowly. Pain shot through his neck, but he ignored it. Jake lay in the bed next to him. The human captain looked terrible. Pale skin, bandages everywhere, machines monitoring his vital signs, but his chest rose and fell steadily. Breathing, living. "The radiation exposure was severe," Lisa explained. "Both of you should be dead. But I combined human medical technology with saurian treatments. Your natural radiation resistance helped. And Jake's body is apparently more resilient than standard human baseline. Must be from growing up on Earth. The station? Saved. The reactor is stable. Repairs are underway. The Krellians retreated after their flagship was destroyed. Coalition reinforcements arrived 2 days ago. We won, Commander. We actually won." Relief washed over Vexthar. They had done it. Against impossible odds, they had defended the station. Saved hundreds of lives, all because a small group of humans refused to give up. And because he had learned to trust them. Over the next week, both Vexthar and Jake slowly recovered. The medical staff said it was a miracle. The radiation should have killed them, but somehow working together they had survived. Lisa said it was because they had shared the exposure. Split it between them. Neither one took a lethal dose alone. Jake woke on the 5th day. His first words were asking if everyone was safe. When Lisa confirmed it, he smiled and went back to sleep. Even in near death, the human captain thought of others first. The humans visited constantly. Amy came every day with reports on station repairs. She talked to both of them, updating them on everything. Her efficiency was remarkable. She had organized the entire reconstruction effort. Kyle brought them food from the station cafeteria. Said hospital food was terrible. Even alien hospital food. Danny visited less often. The young pilot was shy. But when he came, he always had stories. Tales of the evacuation ships. How the civilians talked about the brave defenders. How humans were already becoming famous across the coalition. On the 10th day, both Vexthar and Jake were well enough to sit up. They talked for hours. About their worlds. Their lives. Their experiences. Vexthar learned that Jake had been a soldier on Earth, fought in several wars, seen terrible things. That was where his calm under pressure came from. Years of combat experience. Earth has always had wars, Jake explained. Humans fight each other constantly. Overland, resources, ideas. We're not proud of it, but it's our history. All that conflict taught us how to survive, how to fight, how to adapt. Your species fights itself? Vexthar was surprised. That seems wasteful. It is, Jake agreed. But it also pushed us forward. Every war brought new technology, new tactics, new ways of thinking. We learned from our mistakes. Eventually, we realized cooperation was better than conflict. That's when we reached for the stars. Vexithar shared his own history. The Saurians had conquered many worlds, built an empire spanning dozens of systems. They were proud of their strength, their power. But Jake's question made him think, if your species is so strong, why join the coalition? Why not remain independent? Vexithar was silent for a moment. Because strength alone is not enough. The galaxy is vast, full of threats we cannot face alone. The coalition offers something my people could never achieve through conquest. True alliance, partnership, friends. Friends, Jake repeated. I like that word. As do I, Captain. As do I. 2 weeks after the battle, the Coalition High Council arrived at Omega Prime. Representatives from every major species came to inspect the damage, to interview the defenders, to understand what had happened. The station was still being repaired, but it was functional enough for the visit. Vexithar and Jake were summoned to give testimony. Neither was fully recovered, but they could walk now. They made their way to the main council chamber. Other defenders were already there. Saurian warriors, engineers, medical staff, everyone who had fought to save the station. The council reviewed the battle footage. They saw everything. The Krellian attack, the desperate defense, the humans' incredible fighting ability, the sacrifice at the reactor. When the footage ended, the chamber was silent. Finally, the council leader spoke. She was an ancient being from the Nephilim species, gaseous body contained in a special suit. She had led the coalition for 300 years. Commander Vexithar, she said. Her voice was like wind through crystals. You are renowned as the greatest warrior in the coalition, yet you required assistance from a species we barely know, a species that joined us mere weeks ago. Explain this. Vexithar stood. His body protested, but he forced himself to stand straight. Council leader, I was wrong. I have spent my life believing the Saurians were the strongest warriors in the galaxy. I have spent my life believing strength meant size and power and natural weapons. The humans taught me differently. Go on. True strength is not about how hard you can hit. It is about how many times you can be hit and keep standing. Humans evolved on a deathworld, a planet that tried to kill them every single day. They survived through determination, through adaptation, through absolute refusal to accept defeat. That is what makes them strong. Another council member spoke, a crystalline being from the lithoid species. But they are so small, so fragile. How can such weak creatures be effective warriors? Because they do not rely on natural advantages, Vexithar replied. They use tools, strategy, cooperation. They adapt to every situation. They learn from every fight. Where we see obstacles, they see opportunities. Where we see certain death, they see a problem to solve. And you believe they should remain in the coalition? I believe humanity should be granted full membership. With honors. They proved themselves in battle. More than that, they proved their character. Captain Morrison risked his life to save mine. His entire crew fought to protect people they had just met. That is the spirit of the coalition. That is what we should all aspire to. The council members discussed among themselves. Vexithar could not hear what they said, but he saw their reactions. Some seemed convinced. Others remained skeptical. The debate went on for several minutes. Finally, the council leader spoke again. Captain Morrison, approach. Jake stepped forward. He moved stiffly, still healing from his injuries. But he stood tall, met the council leader's gaze without fear. Captain, you and your crew showed remarkable bravery, remarkable skill. But we must ask, why did you stay? You could have evacuated, saved yourselves. Why risk everything for a station you barely knew? Jake was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was clear and strong. Because it was right. Because people needed help. Because that's what humans do. We protect, we defend. We stand up for those who cannot stand up for themselves. It's not about reward or recognition. It's about doing what needs to be done, even if it costs you your life. Especially then, life is precious, but some things are worth dying for. Freedom, justice, protecting innocence. Those are the values Earth holds dear. Those are the values we bring to the coalition. The council leader was silent for a long moment. Then she gestured to the other council members. They moved closer, conferred quietly. Vexithar watched anxiously. Everything depended on this decision. If the council rejected humanity, it would be a terrible mistake. The council leader turned back to face them. The Coalition Council has made its decision. Earth and humanity are granted full membership. Furthermore, we recognize humanity's exceptional combat abilities. We request that human forces join the Coalition Defense Initiative, work alongside our existing military, Share your knowledge and experience. Relief flooded through Vexthar. They had done it. Humanity was in. More than that, they were recognized as equals, as warriors worthy of respect. Captain Morrison, the council leader, continued. You are hereby promoted to Admiral. You will command a coalition carrier group, and we request that Commander Vexithar serve as your second in command. The galaxy needs warriors who understand each other, who trust each other. You two have proven that trust in battle. Jake looked at Vexthar. The Saurian nodded. It would be an honor, Admiral, Vexthar said. The honor is mine, Commander, Jake replied. The chamber erupted in approval. Species from across the galaxy celebrated, not just for humanity's acceptance, but for what it represented. A new era of cooperation, a new understanding of what strength truly meant. After the ceremony, the human crew gathered together. Amy was promoted to commander. Kyle became head of Coalition Special Forces. Danny received his own ship to command. Lisa was put in charge of interspecies medical research. Each of them had earned their place through bravery and skill. 5 years passed. 5 years since the Battle of Omega Prime. 5 years since humanity joined the Galactic Coalition. In that time, everything had changed. The galaxy would never be the same. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Unity. The massive carrier was a joint project. Human engineering combined with alien technology. It represented the new coalition. Different species working together, learning from each other, building something greater than any could achieve alone. Beside him stood Commander Vexthar. The Saurian had fully recovered from his radiation exposure. His scales had regrown darker than before. Scars marked his body, reminders of that desperate day, but he wore them proudly. They were proof of survival, proof of friendship. Admiral, we are approaching Earth orbit, the navigation officer reported. She was a young woman from Mars Colony. Humanity had spread across their solar system. Soon they would spread across the galaxy. Thank you, Lieutenant, Jake said. He looked at Vexthar. Ready to see my homeworld? I have been looking forward to this, Vexthar replied. A deathworld that created warriors like you. I must see it with my own eyes. The Unity entered Earth's orbit. The blue and green planet filled the view screen. Vexthar stared in amazement. It looked so peaceful from space. Beautiful, even. But he knew the truth. That peaceful appearance hid a world of extreme danger. Violent weather, deadly predators, diseases. Yet humans had not just survived there. They had thrived. It is smaller than I expected, Vexthar said. But much stronger, Jake replied. Earth made us what we are. Every challenge we faced made us tougher. Every disaster we survived taught us lessons. This planet is our greatest teacher. They took a shuttle down to the surface. Jake had chosen to land in North America, a place called the Grand Canyon. He wanted Vexthar to see natural beauty. To understand what humans fought to protect, the shuttle landed on the canyon rim. Vexthar stepped out and immediately felt the difference. The gravity was stronger than most worlds. The oxygen levels were high. The sun felt harsh on his scales. This was indeed a death world. Most species would struggle just to walk here. But the view was incredible. The canyon stretched before them, layers of red and orange rock carved by water over millions of years. The scale was enormous. Nature's power on full display. This is what shaped us, Jake said quietly. This raw, untamed beauty. This power. Humans learned to respect nature, to work with it, to survive despite it, Vexthar understood. The Saurians had conquered their world through strength, but humans had survived their world through adaptation. Different paths to the same goal. Different kinds of strength. They spent the day exploring. Walking along the canyon rim, Jake pointed out plants and animals. Each one had evolved to survive in harsh conditions. Each one was a fighter in its own way. The desert, the mountains, the oceans. Earth had every kind of extreme environment, and humans had learned to live in all of them. As the sun set, painting the sky orange and purple, they sat on the canyon edge. Vexthar felt the wind on his scales, heard the distant call of birds, smelled the dry desert air. This world was alive in a way most planets were not. You taught me something important, Jake, Vexthar said. 5 years ago, I thought strength was about power, about dominance, about winning fights. But true strength is different. What is it then? Jake asked. Perseverance. The ability to keep going when everything says you should quit. The courage to protect others even when it costs you. The wisdom to adapt instead of just fighting harder. That is what humans have. That is what you showed me at Omega Prime. Jake was quiet for a moment. You know what the funny thing is? Humans do not think we are special. We are just doing what comes naturally. Surviving, protecting our tribe, refusing to give up. Every human carries that inside them. A billion ancestors who survived against the odds. Perhaps that is what makes you special, Vexthar said. You do not see your strength as unusual. You simply are strong. It is part of your nature. Over the next few days, Vexthar met with human leaders, politicians, scientists, military commanders. Each meeting taught him more about humanity. They were diverse. Thousands of cultures, hundreds of languages, different beliefs and customs. Yet they had united, put aside their differences to reach for the stars. How did you do it? Vexthar asked Jake one evening. How did humanity unite when you had so many divisions? Jake considered the question. We realized we had a common enemy. Not another nation or species, but our own limitations, our own weaknesses. We could fight each other forever and get nowhere. Or we could work together and reach the stars. Eventually, enough people chose the stars. And those who disagreed, we convinced them, showed them the benefits, proved that cooperation was better than conflict. It took time, generations even, but we got there. And now humanity speaks with one voice when it matters. Vexthar thought about his own people. The Saurians had united through conquest, one empire ruling all. But humans had united through choice, different cultures deciding to work together. That took a different kind of strength. The strength to compromise, to listen, to change. Before leaving Earth, Jake took Vexthar to one more place, a memorial. It stood in a city called Washington. The memorial listed names, thousands of names, soldiers who had died in Earth's wars, before humanity reached space. Every name here represents someone who fought for what they believed in, Jake said. Some fought for good causes, some for bad, but they all shared one thing. They refused to back down. That is the human legacy. That is what we bring to the coalition. Vexthar stood silently before the memorial. He understood now. Humans were warriors not because they loved fighting, but because they refused to let others decide their fate. They would stand and fight for their freedom, their families, their future. No matter the cost, they returned to the unity. As Earth grew smaller behind them, Vexthar felt changed. He had come to this world expecting to see a primitive planet. Instead, he found something profound. A world that had shaped the most remarkable species he had ever encountered. Over the following months, the partnership between humans and Saurians grew stronger. Human tactics were integrated into coalition military training. Saurian strength combined with human adaptability created formidable teams. Other species watched and learned. Amy's tactical programs became standard across the coalition. Kyle's special forces trained warriors from dozens of species. Lisa's medical research saved countless lives. Danny's piloting innovations improved ship designs. The humans gave freely of their knowledge, asked for nothing in return except friendship. Omega Prime was rebuilt. Stronger than before, a memorial was placed in the central plaza. It listed all who had died defending the station, human and alien names together. At the base was an inscription in every coalition language. True strength is not the absence of fear, but the refusal to let fear win. Here stood those who would not yield. Here began a new understanding. Here we learned what it means to be strong. Vexthar visited the memorial often. Each time he remembered that desperate battle. Remembered watching the humans fight. Remembered the moment he realized he was wrong about them. About strength. About everything. 1 year after their trip to Earth, Vexthar was summoned by the Coalition High Council. He wondered what they wanted. The journey to the council chambers took several days. When he arrived, he found Jake already there. Along with representatives from every major species, the council leader spoke. Commander Vexthar, Admiral Morrison, you have served the coalition with distinction. Your partnership has become a model for cooperation between species. You have shown us a new way forward. We are honored, Vexthar replied. The council has a new mission for you. We are establishing a joint task force, multiple species working together, learning from each other. You two will lead this force. Show the galaxy what we can achieve through cooperation. Vexthar looked at Jake. The human smiled and nodded. We accept, Vexthar said. The task force became reality. Warriors from dozens of species. All training together. All learning from each other. Saurians teaching close combat. Humans teaching tactics and adaptation. Other species contributing their own unique skills. It was everything the coalition should be. Years passed. The task force grew in size and reputation. They responded to crises across coalition space. Rescued colonies under attack. Provided disaster relief. Fought pirates and raiders. Everywhere they went, they left behind inspired populations. Species working together. Supporting each other. One evening, Jake and Vexthar stood together on the Unity's observation deck. It had become their tradition. A quiet moment after each mission. Time to reflect and talk. Do you remember when we first met? Jake asked. I remember thinking humans were weak, Vexthar admitted. I remember dismissing you as soft, fragile, useless in battle. And now? Now I know better. Humans are not weak. You are survivors, fighters, warriors in the truest sense. You taught me what real strength looks like. Not just physical power, but mental toughness, emotional resilience, the ability to keep going no matter what. Jake was quiet for a moment. You know what you taught me? That strength comes in many forms. Saurians are powerful, impressive, but you also have honor, loyalty, the courage to admit when you are wrong. That takes its own kind of strength. So we are both strong, Vex.